Hi, I'm an artist with Aphantasia. Many people may think that a creative person needs passion, creativity, and imagination. But what if I told you that when you try to close your eyes and imagine your next project or idea, the only thing you see is darkness? Aphantasia is when you can't form mental images of real or imaginary things. I have aphantasia, which means that I can't voluntary or involuntary produce mental images. Did you know that the lack of a mind's eye was rediscovered after a 2015 study by Adam Zeman at the University of Exeter? Zeman named this condition aphantasia from the Greek word phantasia, meaning imagination. I know you're wondering, how did I figure out I had aphantasia? It was through watching a YouTube video by Jamie versus the Void, and their experience definitely felt just like mine. And I felt very overwhelmed a bit, but also it was kind of funny. But then again, it was also kind of sad because I definitely felt kind of broken. There are different ways to actually measure aphantasia. I watched a video by Pour This With Me that talked about questionnaires like the vividness of visual imagery, spontaneous use of imagery scale, and object and spatial imagery questionnaires. These questionnaires help measure aphantasia because there isn't much data. I'm going to show you a simple example using vividness of visual imagery questionnaire on the screen. Let me know in the comments which category do you think you fall under. I will fall under category 1. I see nothing, but I know I'm thinking of a red cardinal. For example, I know that a red cardinal is red. It's a bird. It has feathers. It has eyes, a beak. You know, that kind of thing. And on the opposite end of aphantasia, there's hyperphantasia, which is a condition that causes people to have extremely vivid mental imagery. People with hyperphantasia would see the bird in great detail like it's sitting right in front of you. As a kid, when I watched cartoons, I used to see the cartoon character would have a nice little thought bubble at the top of their head, and they used to have some type of visual example of what they were thinking. Me, not knowing that this is a thing that can actually be a thing, I just thought that this was just something that happens in cartoons. Or another example, when your parent might tell you to count sheep to go to sleep. I also thought that was some form of a metaphor to be able to count sheep. I'm like, how am I going to count sheep? I don't understand. Or another example would be if you're trying to meditate and you're doing a guided meditation and the person says, can you visualize you being at a beach, or can you visualize being in a field of daisies or anything like that? Try to calm you down. And that never worked for me because I never seen anything in my mind's eye. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, if you do have aphantasia, is it something you should be worried about? Most memories are linked to visual imagery, but they can also be linked to hearing, tasting, and smelling, and touching. So it can be argued that having a lack of mind's eye can make it hard for people with aphantasia to recall memories. And if you know me, I've always let people know that I am such a visual learner. I cannot, probably a good 90% of the time, I cannot grasp things as well as I can if I can visually see them. That way I can process them and all that good stuff and understand them better. And also when it comes to recalling faces, sometimes I know that face, but I don't know where it's from, especially when I'm watching movies with my husband and I'm like, I know this person, I know that face. I don't know where they're from, but I know that face. And he's like, well, let me look it up. And he lists all the things that they've been in. And I'm like, yes, I remember them. Yes, I remember them. And one of the reasons why our brains are so cool is because I did not know that I had aphantasia. My brain adapted to whatever I was lacking. It made sure that I could still function in the way that I could, I guess, that I didn't know that I had aphantasia. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but your brain kind of adapts to what it's lacking, I guess, as best as it can. Even though I have these struggles, I didn't know they were actually struggles until I figured out I had aphantasia. Like I said before, aphantasia affects all your senses, not just sight. But it doesn't mean that you lack imagination. You just lack your mind's eye. For me, it mainly affects my visual perception, but I feel like I have a better time recalling smells and tastes and maybe texture as well. And of course, I had to put my family and friends and my husband to the test to see if they had any level of aphantasia or hyperphantasia. And of course, most of them were pretty much on the higher end of not necessarily hyperphantasia, maybe a couple of them, but a lot of them had definitely seen something. And it just blows my mind every time I ask somebody that they can actually see something. And after quizzing all of them about what they could see and all the good stuff, it really made me think about how I create art as an artist. I, like many artists, use references to practice or create, but most artists can draw from memory using their mind's eye. Something, of course, I cannot do. When I create art, I know what I want most of the time, but in order for me to actually flesh out what I'm trying to convey, I have to put it down on paper, canvas, digital, whatever medium I'm thinking of. That's the only way that I'll be able to actually visualize it like many other artists can in their brain. And for a long time, I felt like a fraud because I always had to reference previous art to keep up the details of an original character design. For example, like with my original characters, Little Boom and Sade. And with them, I have to make sure I reference previous images because I can forget the smallest detail. And with the original characters, you can't really miss those details. And if I had a mind's eye, I feel like I would be able to recall those details easily. It's kind of frustrating sometimes, but the way that I'm so used to it now, it's just like second nature to me. But I definitely was hard on myself for a very long time because I felt like, real artists shouldn't have to reference things. They should be able to just remember it and that would be it. But one thing I can say is that muscle memory is definitely a thing. Like simple things. I can draw a heart easily. I know what a heart looks like. I know what a circle looks like. Just simple shapes like that. But sometimes when it comes down to like the nitty gritty of details, I cannot recall those little things. But I realize it's not just me who struggles with this, and it's not my fault. I can't picture what I want in my mind. Some of the things that actually do help me when it comes to referencing and all that good stuff, I reference in real life, like myself, my husband, my family, my friends, online resources. I also love using books, magazines, or anything else that inspires me. And if you would like to see a full video of my drawing process, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. I will appreciate that. Overall, having aphantasia didn't have a major impact on me until I realized I had aphantasia. It made me realize how different I was from others and how I learn and understand things. At first, it was shocking to know I lacked something most people have, but now I understand it's just a part of me and my story as an artist. I'll still be the person I seek to be even with aphantasia, and you can too.